Hey guys, Michelle with Next Chapter Counseling here. The question that I got this week that I'm going to be answering for you all is how can you break up with someone nicely? How can you end the relationship in a way that feels good to you and hopefully doesn't do a lot of damage to the person that you're breaking up with? So, this is a tough question to answer and one that unfortunately I'm sure a lot of us out there have experience with. If you've been in enough relationships, chances are you've had it at least once where you've been on the receiving end of a breakup, and you've probably had it at least once where you're the one who's doing the breaking up. Both positions are difficult to be in, but for those of you who are doing the breaking up, I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier for you with what I'm going to talk about in this video today. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the things that people say have done more harm than good when it comes to breakups when they've been on the receiving end of it. And then I'm going to talk about what you can do instead so that when you are breaking up with someone, you're doing it with kindness and respect and not leaving a lot of damage in your wake, hopefully. So the number one thing that I hear from people when it comes to breakups of what is damaging is that it's really damaging when a breakup is not done face to face. It sucks that I even have to say this because it should be a no-brainer, but it's so common nowadays that people break up with someone over text or email, or they just ghost them. They just, stop talking to them altogether. And this really hurts people. It doesn't matter really what you say in the text or what you say in the email. That's what the person being broken up with tends to remember. They just think to themselves, well, they sent it in an email, they said it in a text. So do what you can to meet with them face to face and talk about this together in person. Now, I know like if you're in a long distance relationship, that may not be realistic. So in that case, try to do it over video chat. And yes, if you're trying to reach out to this person to get together with them and they're maybe kind of ghosting you, like, yeah, you may have to resort to a phone call, but give it a solid try in doing your best to get together with them in person and do it face to face. That already puts you off on a better foot than doing it over text or email or some other way that's not face to face. The second thing that people tell me does more harm than good is when they meet with this person and the person breaks up with them and they're left at the end of the conversation not really knowing why the breakup happened. So a lot of times people beat around the bush a little bit. Again, they're trying to be nice, but they don't ever directly tell the person why the relationship is ending. They may say things like, I think you're such a great person, but I realized that this wasn't the relationship for me, and so I think it's best if we break up. But you're so great, and I hope you find someone awesome out there. And the person hearing that is left with a lot of questions of like, okay, but why? Why are you breaking up with me? And some people really dance around saying their reasons, but I'm going to encourage you to not dance around it. Tell the person what your reasons are. I encourage you to prevent it becoming just like a huge long laundry list of like 10 things, because no one wants to hear that. Narrow it down to like the top one or two, maybe the top three. I wouldn't go into more reasons than that because that just gets like too exhausting for you and for them to one be saying all that and for them to be hearing it. So narrow it down to your top reasons, but it's important that you tell them why the relationship is ending. Some people may ask you directly, some people may not ask you directly, but let them know. The only circumstance where I would say don't let them know is if they tell you directly, I don't want to hear why this is ending. I don't want to hear your reasons. Okay, if they tell you that and they're not ready to hear it, fair enough. Then back off and don't say it if they don't want to hear it. But most people, believe it or not, they do. They have that gigantic question mark of why. And it's fair that you give them an answer. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the best way to explain your reasons because this is where it can get really difficult to be this honest with someone. But the key to keep in mind when you're saying what your reasons are is to talk about the relationship, not talk about the person themselves. This is not the time to tell the person that you've been with everything that you think is wrong with them and all the flaws they have. No, that is not kind and respectful. That verges on being rude and hurtful. This is the time to talk about what happened to the relationship. And for the vast majority of people, the reason why the relationship has come to this point where you're ready to end it is because of differences between you and them. It doesn't mean that you're right and they're wrong, or that you're good and they're bad. It just means you guys are on different pages with certain things, and over time that came to take a toll on your relationship. This is what happens most of the time when a relationship is coming to an end. So it's explaining that to the person you're breaking up with and making sure that you're not pointing the finger at them, right? So I'm going to give like a couple of examples here. You're going to notice that like the way I talk about it probably sounds pretty similar, but this is just to get you thinking about how you can say this when you're going through a breakup conversation. So let's say the difference between the two of you was that you always like wanted to go out and do things and be with your friends and like be out of the house, and the person you're in a relationship with, like, they were kind of a homebody, like they just kind of always wanted to be home doing their own thing. Excuse me. Rather than saying something like, well, you just didn't want to go out and do things with me, rather than saying that, saying something like, I really started to see over time just how different we are in terms of going out and doing things. I know that I wanted to like go out a lot and be with my friends pretty often, and you seem to just feel more comfortable being at home. And that's okay. But I've come to realize that I really want to be with someone who does want to go out and do those things with me, and that someone probably isn't you, because that just isn't who you are and it doesn't feel as comfortable to you. So you kind of hear the difference? So another example is like, let's say you are a person who wants a lot of physical affection and your partner just wasn't giving that to you. And eventually it kind of reached its breaking point. So instead of saying, well, the reason why I'm choosing to break up with you is because every time we were in public and I wanted you to hold my hand, like you just wouldn't do it. And I hated that. Instead of saying that, again, laying it out of basically saying, I know that throughout our relationship, I kind of always wanted a lot of physical affection. I would want you to hold my hand in public. I would want you to put your arm around me when we were cuddling on the couch. And after all this time of being together, I've started to see that that's something that just doesn't feel comfortable for you. Physical affection like is not your thing. And again, saying that's okay. But I really would like to be in a relationship where I can have more of that, and I'm with someone where that is what they want too. And I've just come to see that that's something that maybe you don't place as high of a value on as I do. So it's laying it out in this way of very clearly saying, this is how we're different. I am okay with this difference, but I'm not okay with being in a relationship where this difference is present. You do you, but I've got to do me. Is kind of what the message is here. So that's how I would encourage you to think about saying things in a breakup conversation, talking about how you guys were on different pages with certain things and that this took a toll on the relationship in time. The final piece here that I would encourage you to add in is, after you've kind of said what you want to say and you've gotten it out that you want to end this relationship, give the other person a chance to respond. Ask them if they have any questions for you. Now, this may be hard. It may be hard to hear what they have to say because they're going to have a lot of emotions going through them, having just heard that you want the relationship to end. But give them an opportunity to ask their questions and say their piece. And again, try to respond openly and honestly with where you are at and why you're making this decision. Because again, one of the things that I hear a lot of the times is that people feel like they didn't get closure. They're left with unanswered questions. Give this person an opportunity to ask you the questions that they have before just parting ways. This is not meant to be a monologue where you just say your piece and then you get up and you say, okay, bye. No, this is meant to be a conversation where both people can have a voice and both people can say what they're thinking, and making that clear to the person that you're breaking up with of, I do want to hear your thoughts. They may not want to share anything, that's fine, but you've given the opportunity for them to do that. Okay, so to recap, because that was a lot. So first, do it face to face. Second, really think about what your reasons are, narrow it down to no more than 3. And then the third thing is to talk about those reasons as differences between the two of you, not anything that's wrong with your partner as a person. And then fourth, give them a chance to ask questions and respond after you've said your piece. All right, I hope that's helpful because, yeah, these conversations are uncomfortable and tough. But, yeah, I hope that helps a little bit in the future. So, if you have a question for me, send me an email, nextchapter.michelle@gmail.com, and I'll be back here again soon for you guys. All right, bye.